I'm Dr. Van Dusen, Superintendent of the Southeastern School District, and I'd like to welcome the Rams community to the 11th Inspire and Impact session. Today we have the opportunity of talking to our fabulous reading specialists, these are elementary reading specialists, K-6, about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is early childhood literacy. As a former elementary principal and former elementary teacher, this has been something somewhat of a passion for me. During my years in both of those roles, I got to see students come in as 5-year-olds, not knowing a letter, and within a few short months, they're actually able to read books. It's an amazing thing to see as an educator and even as a parent, talking to parents throughout the district about how amazed that they are when their child comes to school and within a few short months of reading. And the reason for that is because of the people that you see sitting in front of us here, as well as many of our teachers, our elementary teachers in the district. So let's start with introductions, and we'll start with Mrs. Paul.
Okay. Hi, I'm Brianna Paul, and I'm the literacy coach at Delta Peach Bottom Elementary.
Hi, I'm Amanda Yuri. I am a reading specialist at Stewartstown Elementary. I'm also the ELA chairperson for grades K through 6.
And I'm Kathy Hoy. I am a reading specialist at Delta Peach Bottom Elementary.
Hi, I'm Jen Scarborough. I'm a reading specialist at Fawn Area Elementary School.
Hi, Julie Deppin. I'm also a reading specialist at Fawn Area Elementary.
Hi, I'm Melissa Daisy, reading specialist at Delta Elementary.
Hi, I'm Jen Sturbeck. I'm a reading specialist at Stewartstown Elementary.
Hi, I'm Nicole Golden. I'm the 6th grade reading specialist at Southeastern Intermediate.
Hi, I'm Pam Hobbs. I'm the 5th grade reading specialist at the Intermediate building.
In this room, we have a lot of knowledge, and today you're going to learn a lot about what early childhood literacy looks like. So let's start with the first question to Mrs. Paul, and please share how students are taught in the SASD on how to read.
Okay, well, we think about a lot of things when we're thinking about our youngest readers, but the first thing is something called the 5 big ideas in reading. So the National Reading Panel has identified these 5 ideas that are important skills that students need in order to become proficient readers. So I'll just briefly go over those. The first one is called phonemic awareness. And so this is the ability to hear and identify and move and change sounds in, or phonemes in words. So this is really important as a basic skill that gets students ready to read. The next one is called phonics, and that's the relationship between letters and sounds. And so this is where our readers use phonics to decode unknown words. Next is fluency. Fluency is the ability to read with speed, accuracy, and proper expression. And in order to comprehend or understand what they're reading, fluency is really important. They need to be able to read fluently. Then we have vocabulary. This is the words that children need to know and understand in order to communicate. So vocabulary is actually the most powerful predictor in reading comprehension. And then that's our last one, comprehension. So that's the understanding and interpretation of what we read. And this is ultimately our goal of reading. So that's kind of like the backstory. That's the really important information we think about. And then here specifically at Southeastern, we have an ELA curriculum. And our curriculum is actually aligned to these 5 big ideas as well as the Pennsylvania core standards. So we deliver this instruction to all of our students through a core program, and that's called Into Reading. Specifically with our little guys in grades K and 1, we also use a program called Heggerty, and that is direct instruction in phonemic awareness, which was that first big idea. And then additionally in K to 2, those students receive direct instruction in phonics through something called ECRI. ECRI stands for Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, and these are routines that they do daily to build their phonics skills. And then finally, our teachers have access to other resources like decodable books and manipulatives that they can use with students to differentiate instruction and meet everyone's needs. So that's kind of a little overview of the philosophy of what we teach and why we teach it.
Great, great. And for any of our parents who have been in the district for a number of years, the last couple of years have been pivotal here in the Southeastern School District. As we just heard Mrs. Pop just mentioned, we added a new core program that went K to 6 into reading. That was implemented, I think, in the 22-23 school year, and I think everybody here was part of that, as well as around 20 or 25 teachers piloted that program. The benefit of that has really just been that we've been able to be consistent across K-6 classrooms, that when our fourth graders go over to Mrs. Golden and Mrs. Hobbs, you have a consistent instructional strategies that they're seeing. So that's positive. And Eckery and Haggerty are also great additions. I know we've had Haggerty for a number of years, but Eckery has been a good addition as well. So working at other districts and seeing how early childhood literacy is done, I will say that Southeastern does it better. And that's because of our people. Number one, we have fantastic, intelligent ladies and teachers that are able to implement this, as well as our core program and our other programs that help to do that. So here's a question. Since some of these changes have occurred over the last few years, and I'll ask this to Mrs. Uri, what are we noticing as far as our student data? Has it made positive effects on our students that are learning to read?
Yes, it has made a very positive impact. I think the most telling score as far as our assessment data has been our DIBELS Universal Screening Tool. So that's a tool that we use to measure early literacy skills. And we've really seen the developmental progression of skills happening a lot more quickly, a little bit more rapidly than we did before, and it's more secure, it's more fluent. So for example, in our kindergarten students, we have students that come into us not knowing the relationships between the letters and sounds, and not even understanding how the sounds work and how to manipulate them. And that's one of the biggest areas of growth we're seeing now in the middle of the year. We're noticing them master those skills and apply them to their reading in the classroom.
Okay, great. So positive outcomes because of the work that these ladies have done.
Friends? Awesome. Now we're going to blend some sounds to say a word. Ace.
Case.
Ace.
Race.
Ace.
Lace.
Ace.
Face.
Is.
Liz.
Let's do this. 8.
Cake.
Help.
Help.
Awesome. Individual turns. Blend the sounds to make a word. Chloe. Ace.
Lace.
Perfect. I'll give you the sounds, then you're saying the word. Let's try ace. Avery. Beautiful. And one more. Ace. Ret.
Face.
10 finger with those 3 friends.
Woo!
We did a good job. We did a good job.
We did a good job. We did a good job.
Right, eyes are here for our sound cards. Your turn. Card.
Acorn.
Sound.
A.
First spelling.
A.
Second spelling.
A consonant E.
All together. Your turn. Card.
Cat.
Sound. First spelling.
C.
Second spelling.
K.
Third spelling.
Short vowel C-K.
One more. Card.
Seahorse.
Sound. First spelling.
S.
Second spelling.
T.
Third spelling.
Short vowel S.
Smart job. All right, when my finger's next to a sound, say the sound in your brain. When I go underneath the sound, say the sound out loud. Sound.
A.
Sound. Sound. Short sound. Long sound. Now we're going to practice our suffixes. We've been doing our cards here for a little while. We're going to say our suffix, the letters, I think helps us to say our spellings, and then we'll do our sounds and our meaning. Suffixes, L-E-S-S. Suffix.
L-E-S-S.
Sound is less. Sound.
Less.
Meaning is without. Meaning.
Without.
All right. Suffix is F-U-L. Suffix.
F-U-L.
Sound is full. Sound.
Full.
Meaning is full of. Meaning.
Full of.
All right. You're telling me suffix, sound, meaning. Suffix.
F-U-L.
Sound.
Full.
Meaning.
Full of.
Perfect. Suffix.
L-E-S-S.
Sound.
Less.
Meaning.
Without.
Beautiful. Suffix. All right, we're looking at our regular word reading, so we're going to look for our vowel sound, and then we'll blend our word together. A consonant E. Sound.
A.
Blend in your brain. Blend.
Space.
Word.
Space.
A consonant E. Sound.
A.
Blend it in your brain. Blend.
Race.
Word.
Race.
Perfect. Here's our vowel sound. Sound.
A.
Blend.
Lace.
Word.
Lace.
A consonant E sound.
A.
Blend.
Face.
Word.
Face.
Here's our vowel sound. What do you notice about that vowel sound? It is
Closed.
closed. So short sound. Sound. I. Blend.
Liz.
Word.
Liz.
A consonant E sound.
A.
Blend in your brain. Blend.
Cake.
Word.
Cake.
Awesome job.
What we just saw was we saw a lesson by Miss Roberts, an ECRI lesson. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Uri the question to please connect what we just saw from that lesson to what Mrs. Pop discussed a few minutes prior to that.
So ECRI, Enhanced Core Reading Instruction, as Mrs. Pop said, these routines reinforce phonemic awareness skills as well as phonics skills. And as Mrs. Pop said, phonics instruction is where we really begin to build the relationship between the sounds that we hear and the letters or spelling patterns that we see in print. So essentially these routines teach the skills that are already outlined in our core program into reading, but the routines intensify the practice by providing numerous opportunities for students to respond. And they're intentionally repetitive in nature, and this explicit practice makes it easier for students to recall and utilize their knowledge of those phonics patterns and apply them to their reading and their spelling. Decodable text is another key component of our ECRI routines, and decodable texts, for any members of the community that aren't aware, decodable texts are books that have words that students can sound out. And these special texts provide opportunities for students to apply their knowledge from the ECRI lessons to look, feel, and sound like a fluent reader.
Okay, great.
All right, for the next one, you got to get your choppers ready. We are going to chop, segment our words, and then we're going to blend them back together. Are we ready? Here we go. First word, s, k, e. Word,
E.
slip, s, o, e. Slip, smash, s, m, a, sh. Smash, snail, s, m, a, o. Snail. First word, tame. What's the word?
Tame.
Middle vowel sound is?
A.
Do we hear that? Is it long or is it short? It is
Long.
long. Good job. Next word, fell. What's the word? Fell. Middle vowel sound, long or short? So is it long or short? Short. Short. Alrighty. Next one. You are going to repeat the word and you're going to chop it up. Ready? Sky. What's the word? Sky. I. Word?
Side.
Slide.
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 Smoke.
Smoke.
Oak.
Smoke.
Wait, now we're going to change out some sounds. All right. Our word is grew. What's the word?
Grew.
We're going to change grr to st. We get the word? Stew. Good. Crow. What's the word?
Crow.
We're going to change to sn. We get the word?
No.
And we just had the opportunity to see Mrs. Sabelis' Haggerty lesson. So, Mrs. Hoy, would you please unpack that lesson for us?
Sure, I'd love to. So that was really just a small part of the lesson that you saw. The important thing to note here is that phonemic awareness, which is what Haggerty teaches, is like the foundation or the building block of reading. It allows children to identify and manipulate or play with the sounds and words, and that really prepares them for reading. During a typical Haggerty lesson, students identify beginning, middle, and ending sounds and words. They rhyme words, pull apart compound words, and put them back together. They might change out the beginning sound of a word and put in something else, or the ending sound in a word. And all of this is done without looking at print, because phonemic awareness is really all about sounds. Students need to have an awareness of sounds before they can really do work with letters.
Okay, great, thank you. When we're talking K-2 elementary literacy, early childhood literacy, we're talking about how we technically teach our children how to read. Because the goal is, and I think somebody mentioned this before, is that when they go to 3rd grade and go through 12th, they're reading to learn. So what we're talking here is the technical aspects of how we read. So I'm going to ask this question to Mrs. Scarborough. This is a daunting task. There's a lot of technicality to all of this. What can parents do at home that aren't technically proficient in phonemic awareness and phonics?
There's a lot of things that parents can do. So first of all, guys, you know there's libraries out there. Stewartstown is so lucky to have a library right here in town. Maybe some of you can even walk to it. Although be very, very careful. There's train tracks there. Delta does not have a library, but they have the Whiteford Library that's really, really close. And if you live in Fawn Grove, you could go to the Stewartstown Library, or you could go to Norrisville. That's not too far. So getting a library card and maybe doing some of the summer reading programs that they do. I know that at least the York County libraries do the rubbings and the scavenger hunts all summer long. So there's story time. So maybe even get yourself a library card. That could be one thing.
Thank you. Mrs. Deppen, your thoughts?
We get asked this question a lot, like at parent-teacher conferences, and one easy, quick, cheap way to even get your kids reading more is to turn on the closed captioning on your TVs. That gives the students like more exposure to written words, and they're actually tracking while they're watching, and they're reading and don't even realize they're reading at the same time, and it increases their vocabulary. And like Mrs. Pop said earlier, that's one of our 5 pillars. You increase their vocabulary, you increase their fluency, which then increases their comprehension. There's actually a group that's formed right now that's called TOTS, and it stands for Turn On the Subtitles, because they are trying to get TVs to have the subtitles or closed captioning on all the time, and if you don't want them on, to turn them off, because studies have shown how much that really helps students learn to read.
Mrs. Daisy.
One of the biggest things you can do is reading at home. You can create a routine around bedtime to read aloud to them, or they can read to you, depending on how they are reading right then. You can discuss vocabulary words that come up while they're reading. You can ask questions while they're reading. You can, there's also games that you can play at home that have words like Boggle and Scrabble, Bananagrams. So lots of things to do to just have words in their lives all of the time.
Great. Mrs. Strobeck.
All right, so I'm going to tell you some of the favorite things that I used to do with my kids. One of them is just provide experiences. Go for a walk, go to the park, go shopping, just spend time with your kids. That's super important. Another thing that I like to do with mine was I would ask them specific questions about their day, and I was always very intentional about how I did this, because I didn't want them to give me a one-word answer like, how was your day? Fine, good, nope. I really would dig deeper and, ask them very specific questions like, who did you play with? What did you play? Tell me something that you learned about, what was your favorite thing about your day? Who did you sit with at lunch? What were they eating? Like, just to get that conversation rolling so that, again, it would just get them talking in the vocabulary aspect. And then the other thing that I love to do is I always narrated like their daily tasks. So if we were brushing their teeth, I'd be like, okay, what do we need to do first? Turn on the water, get our toothbrush, put our toothpaste on it, and just really use language with them and have them talking about their day and what we're going to be doing. If you're cooking, okay, let's look at the recipe. What do we need? We turn the oven on, get the eggs out of the fridge. So just really that conversation piece is super important.
Mrs. Hobbs.
Yes. Because my career was always in 5th grade, the early literacy was not part of my instructional day. However, it was part of my home as a parent and a new grandparent now. So I know one thing we did a lot was singing. And we would pull up, like Julie said, because with the sing-alongs, it would have the words there. So we were singing and they were seeing the words. That was a big thing. Then you have to have a dance party too. And the nursery rhymes. Never underestimate the power of those old-fashioned nursery rhymes. They are so important. And I just think with every year I'm seeing more and more kids don't know those nursery rhymes.
Yeah.
And I would love to see that come back.
So I'm gonna put our fawn reading specialist on the spot with an extra question here. So you're telling me that all of these wonderful things that we can do as parents, that as I'm hearing these, I'm thinking to myself, bad parent, bad parent, bad parent. But so our parents don't have to know what phonemic awareness and phonics are. It's more about the experiences that you have with your kids and their interaction with print that's the most important.
Right.
Anything else? That-
Read to them. I mean,
Yeah.
you're kind of cutting into what I'm going to say at the end.
Okay.
I can
Sorry
say it
about
now if you want.
So we'll ask another question, and this is for Mrs. Golden. How do parents know what a good book is for their child?
First of all, it's, as parents, it's our responsibility to foster a love for reading with our students or with our children. And if your child comes home and says, I don't like to read, they just haven't found the right book yet. They need to find the perfect book, the perfect author, and sometimes that takes time. If a book is too easy, that's okay. Practice fluency. They can whiz through it. It's fine. If it's too hard, that's okay. Discuss it with them. Builds vocabulary, builds decoding skills. It uses all of our 5 pillars. So just expose them to books. Books.
Yeah, and also don't discount magazines,
Right.
graphic novels, any text is good text.
So in closing, we're going to go back to Mrs. Devon. And are there any other final comments that you'd like to share with our families?
Yeah, so as technical as all of this sounds, we do have to get technical to help our little ones learn to read. But we also can't forget that reading is fun and reading can bring joy. And Mrs. Golden said, find the right book. And I know, Dr. Van Dusen, you love a good quote. J.K. Rowling says that if you don't like to read, you haven't found the right book.
Yes.
And so find what your kids love. Find what they love. Find the book that was going to bring them joy. If they're younger, find one and read it to them. We as teachers, we are exposing them to read alouds and different genres so they can find their niche and what they love about reading, because I think we all agree we love reading. And let's bring the joy back.
So as I close, I would like to thank our reading specialists, our elementary reading specialists, for spending some time to go over the technicalities of what it means to learn to read, but also the pragmatics of what parents can do to help their kids foster a love of reading. I'd also like to thank them for their leadership. These ladies up here have been leaders in our district for a long period of time. And basically what you're looking at up here within our elementary division, this is the foundation for all of our education. Without learning how to read and the technical aspects that we teach here at Southeastern, our kids in 11th and 12th grade are not going to understand the text that they're reading. So in closing, I'd like to thank you ladies for taking time on this Thursday afternoon to do this Inspire and Impact session, and wish the community the best.